Greetings filmers, welcome back to another Winnipeg Rail video picture. I happened to be north of Peg City on Thursday, November 20th, and I had some time to shoot the Lake Line Railway. I drove up to Netley and didn't see the main unit sitting there, a clear sign they were up to no good somewhere on the line. Unfortunately, the RS-18 is always just chilling there these days. I caught up to the train in Sandy Hook, just north of Winnipeg Beach. Here's HLCX GP40 number 4220 headed north with tanks for the distillery in Gimli. Here they are again on the outskirts of Gimli going over a frozen little creek, or ditch, I don't know. They stopped the train in between the siding and Gimli to run the Jeep around it and push it north to the Diago Distillery. A station, wide track, and grain elevator once stood in this area. Finally, the train reaches the industry at the end of the line. They had to push some tank cars that were already there into the facility, among some other switching maneuvers. I would have got some drone shots, but I didn't because while I was getting some drone pictures back at the bridge there, the signal between the drone and the phone started cutting in and out mid-air, so I decided not to just in case I lost signal over the distillery fence or right above the train or something stupid. Anyways, there's also a privately owned former CP Rail Angus van stored at the very end of track. It's supposedly being turned into a cabin sometime in the future. Just north of this caboose, the beach towns up to the bigger town of Riverton have not seen a train go by in pretty much 35 years. This distillery pretty much saved this scenic part of the line. From here at mile 58 to the original end at mile 77, the track was abandoned and pulled up in the summer of 1991. So, as for the history of the locomotive here, I've probably yapped about it in other LLR videos, but HLCX 4220 was built in 1967, don't even say it, as Milwaukee Road GP40 number 163. It got renumbered to Milwaukee Road 2036 and stuck around into the Sioux acquisition as their Bandit Scheme 2036. Sometime in the early 2000s, it was brought onto CP Rail's roster as their 4616, and around 2013, CP sold it to HLCX as their 4220, which brings us to today as we see the unit passing the iconic Ford Gimli dealership. Here we see the train rounding a slight curve on their way south out of Gimli with 3 tanks full of whiskey. We usually shoot Willow Creek from the highway, but this is the perfect time of year to walk up to the bank to get this sort of shot. By this point I was joined by my buddy Canadian Transcon. Here we are on Winnipeg Beach, where an old CP wooden caboose is being cosmetically restored. After this, we headed south to a spot I've been trying to shoot for a hot minute now, the old station at Ponema Beach. Since it's been so long since the line has had passenger service, this spot has become a little museum. The beach shot didn't quite turn out like I'd anticipated this time, but oh well. Here we are at Matlock Beach. After Chalet Beach Road, we got one last shot before they tied the train down in Netley for the day. After decades of declining rail traffic and subsequently branch lines being torn up, the LLR is pretty much the only operation directly north of Winnipeg. Well, besides the rare Prairie Dog and Seymour storage runs. And seeing that there's nothing else going on up here train-wise, unless I drive another 700 kilometers north to the Paw and shoot Hudson Bay Railway, I headed back down to Selkirk to kill time before heading home. Here's some biplanes sitting in a lot just north of the city. After that, I went south to the Marine Museum, where nearby there's a big plaque for the old interurban line, as well as a piece of rail and an axle from God only knows what kind of rail car that surprisingly date back to 1897. Of course, the museum has a couple old, beautifully restored steamships, tugboats, and whatnot on display that are actually open for people to walk through in the summer months. This ship, Kenora, was built in 1898. After checking it out, I heard the familiar sound of a GP20C, meaning the almost daily CP Rail local had just pulled into Selkirk. Here's the Eco Duo crossing Manitoba Avenue. As they made their way south, I decided to end the day with a little trip across the river to the very end of steel on the old Central Manitoba, or former CN, Pine Falls sub. This track north of East Selkirk was abandoned over 15 years ago now when the paper mill in Pine Falls closed, and the part of the line just to the south towards Winnipeg only sees storage movements every few months these days. One can only picture the sight of seeing a speeding steam train pulling campers north to the beach towns on this side of the lake 70 years ago now. Otherwise, this quick little walk was a really nice end to a pretty chill day. Alright, thanks for watching everyone, hope you enjoyed. As always, feel free to join the channel as a member for a shoutout at the end of videos like these awesome people right here. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe for more mediocre train content coming soon. Also real quick, thank you all for helping the channel reach 15,000 subscribers. I know the content grind is really slow these days, but there'll be some videos out before the year's end. Anyways, with that being said, you know the drill. Be nice in the comments, don't diddle kids, don't derail trains for clout. See you next Tuesday.